My pilgrimage broadened my scope. It blessed me with a new insight. In 2 weeks in the Holy Land, I saw what I never had seen in 39 years here in America. I saw all races, all colors, blue eyed blondes to black skinned Africans in true brotherhood, in unity, living as one, worshiping as one. No segregationists, no liberals. They would not have known how to interpret the meaning of those words. In the past, yes, I have made sweeping indictments of all white people. I never will be guilty of that again, as I know now that some white people are truly sincere, that some truly are capable of being brotherly toward a black man. The true Islam has shown me that a blanket indictment of all white people is as wrong as when whites make blanket indictments against blacks. Yes, I have been convinced that some American whites do want to help cure the rampant racism which is on the path to destroying this country. It was in the holy world that my attitude was changed by what I experienced there and by what I witnessed there in terms of brotherhood. Not just brotherhood towards me, but brotherhood between all men of all nationalities and complexions who were there. And now that I am back in America, my attitude here concerning white people has to be governed by what my black brothers and I experience here and what we witness here in terms of brotherhood. The problem here in America is that we meet such a small minority of individual so called good or brotherly white people. Here in the United States, notwithstanding those few good white people, it's the collective 150 million white people whom the collective 22 million black people have to deal with. My black brothers and sisters around New York and in some other cities were calling to congratulate me on what they had heard on the radio and television news broadcasts. And people, mostly white, were wanting to know if I would speak here or there. The next day, I was in my car driving along the freeway when, at a red light, another car pulled alongside. A white woman was driving, and on the passenger side next to me was a white man. "Malcolm X," he called out, and when I looked, he stuck his hand out of his car across at me, grinning. "Do you mind shaking hands with a white man?" Imagine that, just as the traffic light turned green. I told him, "I don't mind shaking hands with human beings. Are you one?" I've had enough of someone else's propaganda. I had written to these friends. I'm for truth, no matter who tells it. I'm for justice, no matter who it is for or against. I'm a human being first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. Largely, the American white man's press refused to convey that I was now attempting to teach Negroes a new direction. With the 1964 long, hot summer steadily producing new incidences, I was constantly accused of stirring up Negroes. Every time I had another radio or television microphone at my mouth, when I was asked about stirring up Negroes or inciting violence, I'd get hot. It takes no one to stir up the sociological dynamite that stems from the unemployment, bad housing, and inferior education already in the ghettos. This explosively criminal condition has existed for so long it needs no fuse. It fuses itself. It spontaneously combusts from within itself. They called me a teacher, a fomenter of violence. I would say point blank, that is a lie. I'm not for wanton violence. I'm for justice. I feel that if white people were attacked by Negroes, if the forces of law prove unable or inadequate or reluctant to protect those whites from those Negroes, then those white people should protect and defend themselves from those Negroes using arms if necessary. And I feel that when the law fails to protect Negroes from whites' attack, then those Negroes should use arms if necessary to defend themselves. Malcolm X advocates armed Negroes. What was wrong with that? I'll tell you what was wrong. I was a black man talking about physical defense against the white man. The white man can lynch and burn and bomb and beat Negroes. That's all right. Have patience. The customs are entrenched. Things are getting better. Well, I believe that it's a crime for anyone who is being brutalized to continue to accept that brutality without doing something to defend himself. If that's how Christian philosophy is interpreted, if that's what Gandhian philosophy teaches, well, then I will call them criminal philosophies. I tried in every speech I made to clarify my new position regarding white people. I don't speak against the sincere, well meaning, good white people. I have learned that there are some. I have learned that not all white people are racist. I'm speaking against, and my fight is against, the white racists. I firmly believe that Negroes have the right to fight against these racists by any means that are necessary. Our nation was born in genocide when it embraced the doctrine that the original American, the Indian, was an inferior race. Even before there were large numbers of Negroes on our shores, the scar of racial hatred had already disfigured colonial society. From the 16th century forward, blood flowed in battles over racial supremacy. We are perhaps the only nation which tried, as a matter of national policy, to wipe out its indigenous population. Moreover, we elevated that tragic experience into a noble crusade. Indeed, even today, we have not permitted ourselves to reject or to feel remorseful for this shameful episode. Our literature, our films, our drama, our folklore all exalt it. Our children are still taught to respect the violence which reduced the red-skinned people of an earlier culture into a few fragmented groups herded into impoverished reservations. Indeed, how can white society atone for enslaving, for raping, for unmanning, for otherwise brutalizing millions of human beings for centuries? What atonement would the God of justice demand for the robbery of the black people's labor, their lives, their true identities, their culture, their history, and even their human dignity? A desegregated cup of coffee, a theater, public toilets, the whole range of hypocritical integration, these are not atonement. Since I've learned the truth in Mecca, my dearest friends have come to include all kinds. Some Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, agnostics, and even atheists. I have friends who are called capitalists, socialists, and communists. Some of my friends are moderates, conservative, extremists. Some are even Uncle Toms. My friends today are black, brown, red, yellow, and white. I said to Harlem Street audiences that only when mankind would submit to the one God who created all, only then would mankind even approach the peace of which so much talk can be heard, but towards which so little action was seen. I said that on the American racial level, we had to approach the black man's struggle against the white man's racism as a human problem, that we had to forget hypocritical politics and propaganda. I said that both races as human beings had the obligation, the responsibility of helping to correct America's human problem. The well-meaning white people, I said, had to combat actively and directly the racism in other white people, and that black people had to build within themselves much greater awareness that along with equal rights, there had to be the bearing of equal responsibilities. I knew better than most Negroes how many white people truly wanted to see American racial problems solved. I knew that many white people were as frustrated as Negroes. I bet I got 50 letters some days from white people. The white people in meeting audiences would throng around me, asking me after I had addressed them somewhere, what can a sincere white person do? When I say that here now, it makes me think about the little co-ed I told you about, the one who flew from her New England college down to New York and came up to me in the Nation of Islam's restaurant in Harlem, and I told her that there was nothing she could do. I regret that I told her that. I wish that now I knew her name or where I could telephone her or write to her and tell her what I tell white people now. when they present themselves as being sincere and ask me one way or another the same thing she asked. The first thing I tell them is that at least where my own particular black nationalist organization, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, is concerned, they can't join us. I have these very deep feelings that white people who want to join black organizations are really just taking the escapist way to solve their consciences. By visibly hovering near us, they are proving that they are, quote unquote, with us. But the hard truth is this isn't helping to solve America's racist problem. The Negroes aren't the racists. Where the really sincere white people have got to do their proving of themselves is not among the black victims, but out on the battle lines of where America's racism really is. And that's in their own home communities. America's racism is among their own fellow whites. That's where the sincere whites who really mean to accomplish something have got to work. I tell sincere white people, work in conjunction with us, each of us working among our own kind. Let sincere white individuals find all other white people they can who feel as they do, and let them form their own all-white groups to work trying to convert their other white people who are thinking and acting so racist. Let sincere whites go and teach nonviolence to white people. In our mutual sincerity, we might be able to show a road to the salvation of America's very soul. It can only be salvaged if human rights and dignity in full are extended to black men. Only such real, meaningful actions as those which are sincerely motivated from a deep sense of humanism and moral responsibility can get at the basic causes that produce the racial explosions in America today. Otherwise, the racial explosions are only going to grow worse. Sometimes I have dared to dream to myself that one day history may even say that my voice, which disturbed the white man's smugness and his arrogance and his complacency, that my voice helped to save America from a grave, possibly even a fatal catastrophe. The goal has always been the same, with the approaches to it as different as mine and Dr. Martin Luther King's nonviolent marching that dramatizes the brutality and the evil of the white man against defenseless blacks. And in the racial climate of this country today, it's anybody's guess which of the extremes in approach to the black man's problems might personally meet a fatal catastrophe first, nonviolent Dr. King or so-called violent me. I believe that it would be almost impossible to find anywhere in America a black man who has lived further down in the mud of human society than I have, or a black man who has been any more ignorant than I have been, or a black man who has suffered more anguish during his life than I have. But it is only after the deepest darkness that the greatest joy can come. It's only after slavery and prison that the sweetest appreciation of freedom can come. Anyway, now, each day I live as if I'm already dead, and I can tell you what I would like for you to do. When I am dead, I say it that way because from the things I know, I do not expect to live long enough to read this book in its finished form. I want you to just watch and see if I'm not right in what I say, that the white man in his press is going to identify me with hate. He will make use of me dead, as he has made use of me alive, as a convenient symbol of hatred. And that will help him to escape facing the truth that all I have been doing is holding up a mirror to reflect, to show the history of unspeakable crimes that his race has committed against my race. Yes, I have cherished my demagogue role. I know that societies have often killed the people who have helped to change those societies. And if I can die having brought any light, having exposed any meaningful truth that will help to destroy the racist cancer that is malignant in the body of America, then all the credit is due to Allah. Only the mistakes have been mine. This is now written by Alex Haley, the co-author of the autobiography. I saw Malcolm X too many times exhilarated in the after lecture give and take with predominantly white student bodies at colleges and universities to ever believe that he nurtured at his core any blanket white hatred. The young whites and blacks, too, are the only hope America has, he once said to me. The rest of us have always been living in a lie. Malcolm X had very little good to say of Negro ministers, very possibly because most of them had attacked the black Muslims. Accepting reluctant admiration of Dr. Martin Luther King, I heard him, where I witnessed the Malcolm X who was happiness and most at ease among members of our own race was when sometimes I chanced to accompany him on what he liked to call my little daily rounds around the streets of Harlem, among the Negroes that he said the so-called black leaders spoke of as black masses statistics. On these tours, Malcolm X generally avoided the arterial 125th Street in Harlem. He plied the side streets, especially in those areas which were thickest with what he described as the black man down in the gutter where I came from, the poverty-ridden with a high incidence of dope addicts and winos. Malcolm X here indeed was a hero. Striding along the sidewalks, he bathed all whom he met in the boyish grin, and his conversation with any who came up was quiet and pleasant. It's just what the white devil wants you to do, brother, he might tell a wino. He wants you to get drunk, so he'll have an excuse to put a club up beside your head. Or I remember a lone, almost ragged guitarist huddled on a side street, playing and singing just for himself when he glanced up and instantly recognized the oncoming striding figure. "Ho-ho!" the guitarist exclaimed, and jumping up, he snapped into a mock salute. My man, Malcolm X loved it, and they loved him. There was no question about it. Whether he was standing tall beside a street lamp, chanting with winos, or whether he was firing his radio and television broadsides to unseen millions of people, or whether he was titillating small audiences of sophisticated whites with his small talk, such as, "My hobby is stirring up Negroes." That's spelled Negroes, the way you liberals pronounce it. The man had charisma. He had power. Malcolm X's hand flew to his chest. Okay, the 16 shotgun pellets or revolver slugs hit him. Then another hand flew up. The middle finger in his hand, the bullet shattered and blood gushed from his goatee. He clutched his chest. His big body suddenly fell back stiffly, knocking over two chairs. His head struck the stage with a thud. In the bedlam of shouting, screaming, running people, some ran towards the stage. Among them, Sister Betty scrambled up from where she had thrown her body over her children, who were shrieking. She ran, crying hysterically, "My husband! They're killing my husband." An unidentified photographer snapped shots of Malcolm X's supine on the stage floor with people bent over him, snatching apart his bloody shirt, loosening his tie, trying to give him mouth-to-mouth artificial respiration. First a woman, then a man, said the woman who identified herself only as a registered nurse. "I don't know how I got up on the stage, but I threw myself down on who I thought was Malcolm, but it wasn't. I was willing to die for the man. I would have taken bullets myself. Then I saw Malcolm, and the firing stopped, and I tried to give him artificial respiration. Then Sister Betty came through the people, herself a nurse, and people recognized her, moved back. She fell on her knees, looking down on his bare, bullet-pocked chest, sobbing. They killed him." Again, the actor Ossie Davis stood. His deep voice, he delivered the eulogy to Malcolm X, which was going to cause Davis subsequently to be hailed more than ever among the Negroes in Harlem. Here, at this final hour, in this quiet place, Harlem has come to bid farewell to one of its brightest hopes, extinguished now and gone from us forever. Many will ask what Harlem finds to honor in this stormy, controversial, and bold young captain. And we will smile, and they will say that he is of hate, a fanatic, a racist, who can only bring evil to the cause for which you struggle. And we will answer and say unto them, did you ever talk to Brother Malcolm? Did you ever touch him or have him smile at you? Did you ever really listen to him? Did he ever do a mean thing? Was he ever himself associated with violence or any public disturbance? For if you did, you would know him. And if you knew him, you would know why we must honor him. Malcolm was our manhood, our living black manhood. This was his meaning to his people. And in honoring him, we honor the best in ourselves. And we will know him then for what he was and is, a prince, our own black shining prince who didn't hesitate to die because he loved us so. After signing the contract for this book, Malcolm X looked at me hard. A writer is what I want, not an interpreter. I tried to be a dispassionate chronicler, but he was the most electric personality I have ever met, and I still can't quite conceive him dead. It still feels to me as if he has just gone into some next chapter to be written by historians. New York, 1965.